Hi, and welcome to Cenario, your partner in mental wellness. Here on our channel, we share educational, insightful, and science-backed content to help you understand your mental health and take meaningful steps toward a more balanced life. If you're ready to learn, grow, and take control of your wellness journey, let's jump right in.
You know that feeling, like you're just constantly putting out fires, lurching from one crisis to the next? Well, there's actually a name for that hidden, exhausting pattern. And, more importantly, there's a way to break the cycle. So today, we're going to dive in and understand it. I mean, does this sound like your life? You finally solve one urgent problem, you take maybe half a breath, and then bam, another one just erupts. It's not that steady, low-grade pressure. It's more like a series of intense, repeated sprints that just have no finish line. If that's hitting a little too close to home, then you're in the right place, because you're about to find out exactly why that is.
All right, let's put a name to this whole chaotic cycle, because really, you can't start to break a pattern until you can see it for what it is.
And that name is episodic acute stress. Now, the key words to lock onto here are episodic and acute. See, this isn't just about one bad day or a single stressful project at work. No, this is all about those intense, short-lived stress reactions happening over and over and over again, so frequently that you never really get a chance to fully catch your breath and recover. So to really get a grip on what this is, we've got to separate it from the other types of stress you always hear about. Let's clear up any confusion right now. First up, you've got your standard garden variety acute stress. You can think of this like a single bolt of lightning. You know, like when you have to slam on the brakes in traffic. It's intense, it happens, and then it's over. But episodic acute stress, that's when it feels like you're living in a constant thunderstorm of those lightning bolts. The difference, and it's a huge one, is that it's repeated. So then, how is it different from chronic stress? Well, chronic stress is that relentless grinding pressure, like a difficult financial situation that just never lets up. Episodic acute stress isn't that constant low hum of anxiety. It's a series of really intense bursts, and those little lulls you get in between, they're not really recovery, are they? Because they're usually just filled with you worrying about when the next crisis is going to hit. Okay, so where does this crazy pattern even come from? Let's take a look at what feeds the cycle and, more importantly, why the long-term consequences for our health are so serious. So what really kicks this thing off? Well, it's usually a mix of what's happening around you and what's happening inside you. Things like high-pressure jobs or just taking on way too much can set the stage. But often it's supercharged by our own internal habits, like catastrophic thinking, where every tiny problem feels like an absolute disaster, or just disorganized routines that make you feel like you can never, ever get on top of things. And here's the crucial point, the real kicker. Your body is built to handle stress, yeah, but not over and over and over again without a real break. Each and every episode leaves a mark, and that damage, it's cumulative. It just builds up over time. Mentally, your brain pretty much gets stuck in alarm mode. This constant state of high alert of being on makes it way harder to regulate your mood. And over time, it seriously increases your risk for developing clinical anxiety and depression. And the physical toll is huge. Every single one of those stress bursts sends your heart rate and your blood pressure through the roof. When that happens again and again, it puts a direct strain on your arteries and your entire cardiovascular system, which raises the long-term risk for big problems like hypertension. And believe me, the impact doesn't stop there. Stress hormones, like cortisol, they mess with everything from your digestion, making conditions like IBS way worse, to how your body tries to manage its blood sugar. This is a full-body problem for sure. Okay, so now that we know what this is and why it matters so much, how do you know if this pattern is actually playing out in your life? Let's run through a quick little self-checklist of the most common symptoms. So physically, you might be noticing things that are really easy to just brush off. You know, that persistent tension in your neck and shoulders? Feeling totally wiped out all the time, even when you think you got a full night's sleep? Or maybe frequent stomach issues? These are basically your body's warning lights, and they're flashing. Emotionally, you might feel like you're constantly on edge, super quick to get angry or irritated. That deep, nagging sense of dread, that anxiety about what might go wrong next, that is a massive red flag. And in your head, it can feel completely impossible to focus when your mind is just constantly racing with negative thoughts. And finally, just take a look at your behavior. Has your sleep been a mess? Is your appetite all over the place? Have you maybe found yourself pulling away from friends or leaning way more heavily on that extra cup of coffee just to power through the day? These are all classic telltale signs. Okay, so this brings us to the most important part of this whole thing. Recognizing the problem is step one, absolutely. But taking action, that's how you actually regain control. So let's walk through a really practical plan you can start using today. Look, this isn't about some massive overnight life overhaul. It's all about small, strategic changes over 6 weeks. So week 1 is just about awareness. Simply track your stress episodes to figure out your top triggers. You can't fix what you can't see, right? Then in weeks 2 and 3, you start building your foundation by focusing on core recovery tools like simple mindfulness exercises and, crucially, better sleep. For weeks 4 and 5, you get proactive. You apply practical boundaries at work, at home, to reduce those triggers you found. And finally, in week 6, you just take a step back, review your progress, and decide what comes next. See, it's a manageable, step-by-step process. And here's a really critical point. While doing this stuff on your own is powerful, it does have its limits. If this pattern is seriously messing with your life, your work, or your health, and these steps just aren't enough, it is a sign of incredible strength to seek out professional support from a doctor or a therapist. So we'll leave you with this question. Just for a moment, forget the whole 6-week plan. Just look back at those triggers we talked about. What is just one small thing you can identify and start to address, starting right now, to take that very first step from constant crisis to calm control?
Thank you for watching Cenario. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. For personalized mental wellness supplements, visit Cenario.com.